We're Team 12 and we'll be presenting pre- and post-pandemic project management. I'm Jackie Fequet and I'll be discussing pre-pandemic project management. Tracey Lapierre will discuss the current pandemic and its impact on human capital. Felicia Johnson will discuss the current pandemic and its workplace impact. And Gracie will discuss post-pandemic project management. To begin, it is important that we have an understanding of the history of project management, which will help in understanding the evolution of current managerial practices. Project management goes back as far as the completion of the Great Pyramids of Giza, back in 2370 BC. The pharaohs built the pyramids with ancient records showing there were managers for each face of the Great Pyramid who were responsible for overseeing their work to completion. There is available historical data that shows that during the construction of the Great Wall of China in 208 BC, that the labor forces were organized into three groups consisting of soldiers, common people, and criminals. In 1917, Henry Gantt created the Gantt chart, a radical idea and innovation of worldwide importance in the 1920s. Between 1931 and 1936, the Hoover Dam project is planned and executed with Gantt charts. Between 1942 and 1945, the Manhattan Project led to the production of the atomic bomb and involved 125,000 people. In 1956, the American Association of Cost Engineers is formed by the very early practitioners of project management, and they associated specialties like planning, scheduling, cost estimating, cost and schedule control. In 1957, the critical path method is invented by the DuPont Corporation. It is designed to address the complex process of shutting down chemical plants for maintenance. In 1958, the Program Evolution Review Technique is invented by the U.S. Navy's Polaris project and analyzes the tasks involved in completing a project, essentially identifying the minimum time needed to complete the total project. In 1962, the United States Department of Defense creates the work breakdown structure approach and uses it for future projects. In 1965, the International Project Management Association is founded and is the world's first project management association. In 1969, the Project Management Institute is founded to promote the project management profession. In 1975, the Mythical Man Month, Essays on Software Engineering, is written by Fred Brooks, and its central theme is that adding manpower to a late software project makes it later. In 1984, the theory of constraints is introduced by Dr. Goldratt in his work, The Goal, which is an overall management philosophy that is geared to help organizations continually achieve their goal. In 1986, Scrum is named a project management style, which is an agile software development model based on multiple teams working in an intensive and interdependent manner. In 1987, the Project Management Institute publishes a white paper called the Project Management Body of Knowledge, which is an essential tool in the project management profession today. In 1996, the PMBOK Guide First Edition is published. In 1997, the Critical Chain Project Management is developed by Goldratt and based on methods and algorithm drawn from his theory of constraints. In 1998, the American National Standards Institute recognizes PMBOK as a standard. This is a milestone in the development of project management as a profession. In 2000, the second edition of the PMBOK Guide is published. In 2001, the Agile Manifesto is written to define the approach known by the same name. In 2004, the third edition of the PMBOK Guide is published. In 2008, the fourth edition of the PMBOK Guide is published. The updated version has two new processes that were not in the previous versions. In 2012, the International Organization for Standardization published ISO 21500, 2012, Guidance on Project Management. The fifth edition of the PMBOK Guide is also published. In 2017, the sixth edition of the PMBOK Guide is published. Project management has changed from an art to a science over time because of increasing standardizations, continuous refinement of concepts and development, and use of computer software.
Current pandemic and the human capital impact. Agile has become the new norm when you think about project management. There are impacts that COVID-19 has had on project management relating to human capital. Human capital impact affects economic growth and also helps develop an economy by expanding the knowledge and skills of people. A shift of communication This involves inside and outside of the projects. Communication had to be adjusted right away. This involves internal communication as well as external communication. No longer could we stop by an office to discuss the project, nor could you just stop by the customer's business or discuss the next steps. Simply put, no face-to-face interaction. Scheduling Zoom sessions or other online communication is taking more time than ever before. The necessity of change management and the emerging waves of projects. New projects dealing with online channels, virtual communication has become more prominent than ever before. COVID-19 has created crisis-oriented projects now with more time pressures than ever seen before. Challenges and shifts in stakeholder management. The challenges is maintaining contact with the customer. Before COVID-19, people knew where to get a hold of their customer. But now you must ensure that they are online or have a phone in order to contact them about an issue or questions that arise. This holds true for internal communication as well. Again, it is not as easy as going down to a person's office. Scheduling meetings in order to discuss important parts of the project are now time-consuming. Teams under double pressure. People are now working longer hours because their schedule is off compared to an office. People from the team are feeling the effects of social isolation, which triggers anger, depression, and sadness. This can cause delays in work due to motivation compared to being at the office with people and the bustle of doing the project with other team members. Issues management requires creativity and workarounds. This point links up with the pressure and personal motivation. Team players may be more apt to look for workarounds to get the job done quicker, but not accurately. Rising risks in vendor management. This risk is when supply chain demands are expected due to COVID-19. Companies could be going under and others could be under mergers. This all affect the project budgets that are set up by project managers. Lastly, project delays. Some projects have been delayed or suspended due to COVID, so this has had the effects of project managers, if that is the only project that has been initialized. Looking for new projects might be harder than a company thinks because of people being overly cautious. Challenges. Project managers have needed to address immediate challenges and ensure that all project team members and stakeholders understand their roles and responsibilities. Project managers learn to provide resilience and to restore disrupted activities and adopt a better delivery model that takes into account COVID-19. Project managers have had to adapt to the new portfolio that has been created while still staying true to the organization's values and purposes. As project managers, there's an understanding that this is a new reality and uses a more agile approach to project management. Agile approach, 7-step response plan priorities. With COVID-19 being part of our new agile approach to project management, these 7 steps were created as response plan priorities. This now is part of the new normal when being a project manager. Protect your people. Reduce the need for travel and encourage your team to work from home. Put it on your risk register. Identify all risk scenarios and possible solutions. Consider if your project should be halted or delayed due to the project sponsor, and do not wait for them to come to you and figure out if the project needs to be delayed or halted, and make sure that you have gotten written approvals for some go-ahead for the project if needed. Key into organizational responses. Offer skills that are needed. Bring organizational tier thinking back into your project. Utilize the social and wider communities for their thinking process in order to get some help. Consider procurement commitments. With the pandemic, you may need to take into account that you will need materials before they are needed in order to ensure that you get the right product and it does not stall the project if you're waiting on materials. More liaison with suppliers is necessary to ensure an efficient project. Keep talking. Communication needs to be top priority as people have possible fears or panic about situations if they do not know what is going on. Regularly review schedule to consider plans and responses. Keep up to date with all processes and every part of the project as the project manager. Many situations change quickly now with us in a pandemic. As project managers, we need to stay on the ball to ensure that we keep things as efficient as possible. Finally, think about the alternatives that could step into your role as a project manager if you are taken ill because of COVID-19. Keep this in mind for other key people on your project, as you never know who will be in contact with people that have COVID-19.
The current pandemic workplace. The last few months have been a roller coaster of emotions for many. COVID-19 pandemic has had an ever-changing impact on the way businesses and employees conduct their day-to-day work schedule. Work from home became the ideal solution of how many businesses fill the void of not having employees physically present to do the job. Regular meetings have been placed with apps such as Zoom and Microsoft Teams, just to name a few. Our daily office view became one's living room, bedroom, and daily operations were in turn completed via laptops, cell phones, and PC. We can certainly say that over these months, the pandemic has not only changed the approach to work from home, it's had long-lasting implications in the way that we work and feel about work. There has been two major changes, such as mental health and flexibility. Mental health. The level of anxiety and worry of the pandemic is at an all-time high of 62%. This was stated by the mental health charities. Due to restrictions brought on by the pandemic, job loss, and possibly lack of organizational skills regarding juggling job tasks at home when you possibly have a family member present or kids, especially kids from school due to the pandemic, can affect your overall mental ability to focus and produce efficient work. So many develop anxiety or worse, depression. Flexibility. Although we are in a turbulent time and the pandemic has had some positive change with the flexibility in which employees work, as we read above, but moving forward, business leaders have now planned to adopt the flexible and agile work environment, possibly giving employees the option to continue work from home when working life returns to a new kind of normal. After the second wave, many working families got the hang of a work-from-home schedule and maintaining their household, which proved effective for many.
So, what lies ahead for project management? So it's hard to think about what the world will look like when we're finally out of COVID-19, but it's important to theorize and understand the changes and new contingencies currently in development to see the future implications and new directions that project management is going to be heading in. So I think it kind of breaks down into two different sections. We have micro theorized outcomes and macro theorized outcomes. So first off, I think one of the most important micro outcomes is flexible working schedules. So the death of the 9 to 5, as it's been coined, it's a shift in employees working from in the office to home. For example, 74% of Americans working out of Washington, D.C. believe that the 9 to 5 has no place in the future. It's been cited. So that kind of bleeds into the less in-person interactions. And by this, I mean that a lot of group interactions with project management are going to be over the computer rather than sitting in a boardroom across from each other. So humans are pack animals, I think. Constant social interaction is an important part of our biology, and by separating people into different blocks of work hours or having less in-person day-to-day chatter could have a serious effect on the mental stability of the project team. Now, on that token, it could also have very good impacts. You're weighing both sides of the scale. Increased stakeholder interaction and needs. It's always been important to keep stakeholders engaged in projects, but in a post-analog world, it would be far more difficult to grab their attention. So tactics are now going to be targeted directly at stakeholders, and working from home almost makes that easier. It almost becomes a personal relationship. So a study during the pandemic showed that 72% of all stakeholder interaction was taking place virtually, and 64% of them preferred this over in-person interaction. Next one is increase in security measures. So the big thing for this is people are now working from home. You have about 1,000 more variables to worry about. So you don't know who their spouse works for, how close their environment is, who can hear what. So there's going to be a lot of new security measures being put in place to protect the information or the work being done. And then larger budgets. You're now looking at thousands of more things that need to be incorporated into the budget. So industries that still rely on human-human interaction, I'm confident that PPE is still going to be a part of that for a long time at least. And then on top of that, it's going to have to account for these new security measures and an increase in customer requests. So moving on to macro changes, I would say that one of the biggest ones is more frequent skill development procurement. What I mean by that is with all this not necessarily free time, but time that you're spending at home and saving on commuting or day-to-day chatter with colleagues, you're going to see more people going out and honing their skills in their free time, especially managers, hopefully managers. The best project managers and associated teams will be honing their skills in this off time to keep ahead of the changing atmosphere around them. An increase in developed workplace technology. Back in the day, it would have been okay to be working on an outdated computer because you always have colleagues around you. If your Zoom wasn't working properly, then you could just go and talk to them, but now we rely on technology. So it's going to be a very, very important part of project management teams to keep ahead of their technology. And then finally, stronger, more involved leadership roles. It was difficult to run a team prior to the pandemic and even during the pandemic, but post-pandemic, it's going to be even more difficult because now people are going to have this freedom, but they're also going to be working from home for the most part, or could be. And this could be a huge challenge because human-to-human interaction could be a massive part of how that leader gains loyalty from his employees. The workforce has the potential to be both beneficial and detrimental to the way we currently do project management, and adaptation is key. Key to being more flexible with changing environment. Thank you.